Who really started all the charter issues? And could there be 5 charters for sale really soon?
Three, two, one.
What's up, everyone? Hope you're off to a great week. I am Todd Brown, and this is That Racing Show, where I like to talk about racing. So hope you join me with this and put your thoughts down below. Man, the last couple weeks here has been talking about charters so much. I mean, charter talk goes back to when we first heard about Stewart Haas selling, all the way up till now, with the kind of mandatory charter agreement and signature that was needed to 2311 in front row not signing. Man, there's so many questions right now. There's so many questions about this, because what happens if they don't sign? I mean, are they going to lose their charters? What happens if that? I mean, that would be 5 charters that could be out there on the market again. Does somebody else come in? Do we get new faces into the sport? Does Dale Jr. get one of them and come in? I mean, man, there's so many unknowns right now. But what I want to do in this episode right now is I want to go back beyond the charter, beyond this deal right here. And this whole situation really started in 2014. And that was with the formation of the Race Team Alliance. This started in the summer of 2014. And what's really interesting to me about all this was the big dogs and NASCAR, the big owners. They all got together collectively and said, you know what? We need to do something right here. And it wasn't about charters. It wasn't about the revenue aspect of that. It was about the revenue internally within the teams. Because what they were looking at was, we're all staying at the same hotels. We're all traveling across country. We all need insurance. We all need pensions. We need all these different things. Why not get together to make this happen at a discount? Let's make things happen better for each other by working with each other. And that's where originally this idea came from. And at that point, they named one guy, chairman of the Race Team Alliance. And he was a name that's very familiar with racing. And that's Rob Kauffman. And Rob Kauffman was a co-owner of Michael Waltrip Racing. Also over there at Chip Ganassi for a little bit. And, out there now with Ray Evernham, with the IROC series, helping bring it back. A very wise, business savvy man, also a racer himself. And there's an interesting article from July, I think it was July 7th of 2014 with USA Today with Rob Kauffman, where they really went into details about this. And again, these were the reasons that this was brought about. And interestingly enough, 2014 was the year that NASCAR was working with their new revenue deal, new broadcast deal, and everything else. And at the time, it didn't seem like that was part of what they were worried about. But it's kind of evident now. It's kind of where they were creeping towards a little bit at a time. But anyways, this is where things got wild, was in 2016. Because when this Race Team Alliance was formed, that was done outside of NASCAR. This was these group owners getting together. And it wasn't even all the owners. It was just a select group. And NASCAR really didn't know about it at the time. They presented it to them and said, this is what we're doing. And they wanted them to be part of it. And obviously in 2016, the charters were formed. Now, part of the reasons why the charters were formed was because of teams like Robert Yates Racing, who had been involved in the sport for so long. And then when they got out of the sport, yes, they were able to sell their assets, the buildings, transported cars, things like that. But they were able to sell a stake in NASCAR. They didn't hold a stake in NASCAR. So NASCAR said, you know what? We're going to hand out these charters. And they did 36 of them. And 36 wasn't a set number. 36 was because they went back through, I believe it was 3 years to go, let's see who's really invested in the sport and who's here. And we're going to give them a charter. And that's exactly what happened. And with that, they gave them stake in NASCAR. And then over time, we saw charters sell, we saw charters get leased, we saw different things start happening, and a value really came on to these charters. Now, one of the interesting things is I listened to Dale Jr. here just a couple of days ago where he was talking about the charters, and he was saying, this originally started because it was a way to ensure the teams could make every race of the season. And in essence, that's really what it was, because the teams were able to go to their sponsors and go, okay, we're guaranteed into every race. And so now your product is going to be out there in front of fans, on TV. Let's get this deal done. Let's go to work. And that's what happened. And now over time, I'm not going to say greed set in, but from both sides, different things started happening behind the scenes that have transferred over to what's going on right now. And again, the interesting thing now for me is what's going to happen with these charters since they haven't signed. Now, obviously, we heard from Rick Hendrick. You know, you heard from Justin Marks. Rick Hendrick just said, I was tired. 2 years of this, I'm tired. Justin Marks says it's a feasible deal. It's something to work with and something that we can build off from. You know, and then you got 23XI and Front Row who are like, I'm not dealing with it. And Front Row in wrestling is one that just got a charter, and 23XI was the name that everybody was thinking was going to get a charter from the get-go. Now, the thing about this is everybody points the finger at Denny Hamlin. Like, Denny Hamlin is the voice of this. He's the holdout. Some people love it. Some people hate it. But there's a name behind all this right here that's mentioned some, but I don't think enough. And that's Curtis Polk, who is a minority owner in 23XI. But more than that, he's been with Michael Jordan since the late 80s. And together, they paved a good financial platform for themselves. And through all of this, what I mean is he was also a minority owner in the Charlotte Hornets. And when MJ bought the Charlotte Hornets, he paid $275 million for it. But he sold it for $3 billion. And he was a majority stake owner, so he ended up cashing in about $2.25 billion off a $275 million investment. And I think that's where these guys are holding out so much. I think they want that permanent charter. They want to actually put a franchise tag on these, which in essence they are franchises. I mean, they're able to be sold and everything else or leased, but there's no agreement that this is going to be forever. And NASCAR still owns the rights to these charters, and at any time could say, I'm done. We're done. They're done. And then where's that leave the teams? Which I don't, in essence, I don't see NASCAR doing that, because that was the purpose of this, was to let the teams have some stake in NASCAR. And obviously the France family, they like to hold on to that NASCAR. They don't want to let go of anything. They want to be the big dogs, and it's been going that way since the beginning of NASCAR. And I really don't see that changing. But this is going to be interesting, once again, to see what really happens. Because, again, let's go back to that article in 2014. Rob Kaufman said, we don't have to be over here in NASCAR. We choose to be in NASCAR. It's a privilege to be in NASCAR. So basically what we're saying there is, before the financial aspect come in of, let us get some of this right here, we just love to be here because we get to race. And they're making money. I know teams say that they're not making money and it's so hard and everything else. I don't see any drivers out there living in a 2-bedroom house, or any crew chiefs or anybody involved with this living like that. See them pretty much living a pretty good lifestyle. So they're obviously making money. They might be spending it, but they're still making it. But I'm on side with the best for everybody, and I think that's what really needs to happen. But if they don't sign, man, it's going to be interesting, because NASCAR can pull a charter, and with the agreement running out at the end of this year, could we see that? Because again, what happens? Could we have 5 charters out there for sale that NASCAR is going to be in charge of? Who could that bring in? So, man, this is going to be so interesting to follow, and I really, really want your comments. I want your influence and your input on this, because this is a very touchy subject, and I see a lot of people have different ideas, different things about it. Some people support Denny and everything else. Some people hate the idea of what he's doing, and some people just really hate NASCAR for what they're doing. So interesting, but once again, I want them comments down below, because this is something to really discuss right here. And but man, once again, hope you're having a great week out there. And man, as always, we'll see you at the checkered flag.